Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I was away for a few days due to family vacation in Las Vegas, the city of lights. So I will share some of my experience with you before I jump to the today's news update. So uh, the city of Las Vegas is really the city of light. Uh, you know, very decorative lights here and there in every corner, day and night. Especially the night view is very attractive. Different colors of lights, different innovation you can see when you drive through the cities. Plus, the other thing I experienced there is casinos. Casinos, casino machines everywhere, every hotel, every restaurant. It seems like a requirement for every hotel and every restaurant to have a casino. Is giving an opportunity or an attraction to gamblers. It's everywhere you go. Whether you want to eat a food in a restaurant or a bar, in a regular casino, uh, there are machines everywhere in a large open area. So they are decorated with different colors, attractive colors, and they are inspiring, inviting you to gamble. That's the other experience I had in Las Vegas. We have here also, but it's not like that. It's everywhere you go, casinos, in restaurants, bars, and hotels. Uh, so I will share just some of the areas I visited in Las Vegas. The first one I'm going to show you is an overhead light. It's, it's I don't know how they do it. Maybe they use screen reflecting different lights, different structure. It's just attractive. I'll excuse me. Also, I will share the firework. They have also firework in one place I visited, and it's like they did it in. Oh man, that's an allergy maybe I got from there. I don't know. So I have the firework also to share with you, and the final day of departure, the city, the video I take from the plane. Or you see the Las Vegas, all the lights. So after I share these short videos, I will go to directly to a news update. Thank you for joining me. I really miss you for a while. So let's get started with this one. There you go. This is overhead lights. This is overhead screen on top of you and reflecting different colors. It's amazing. Look, now it's changing to green. Here we go, another. So it's just keep changing different design, different colors, endless really. I just stop it at 1 minute or something. Okay, let's see the other one. Here we go, the light show in Las Vegas. This is so this is done around 7 or I think 7 or 7 p.m. local time. The fire is coming from small man-made mountains, and also it's gonna come from the water and down on the ground. There we go. Look from the water there also. This is very spectacular view of the night. This is the last one for today. Uh, this is the video I take from the top when the plane was leaving Las Vegas. You see the lights all over the city. There we go. So that's to share a little bit what I experienced or the places I visited in Las Vegas, the city of light, as they call it. Really is the city of light. Everywhere you go, so many lights, and so many attractive places. So I enjoyed a very short few days vacation, but the cities try to hold you there, but now due to expenses and your own schedule, you cannot stay more than that. So, but it's a city very attractive to have vacation, to release from tension or stress. So you will enjoy it. Plus the Grand Canyon, also very close by, about 2 hours drive into Arizona, another state. That's also interesting. So thank you for coming back. That's why I was away for a few days. I'm just giving you a reason where he is, if you are wondering. So that's my reason for staying away. Now we come back to our news. Okay. Okay, let's continue with news updates for today. I will start with is really a change of appointment in Ethiopia. So the prime minister shifted the position of no, removed some and replaced with a new appointment, especially the country's Supreme Court. So Maza Shanafi and her deputy removed and replaced by another two appointment. And this news was the news of Maza Shanafi and her deputy removal was removal of her position by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was already announced on Ethio 360 long time ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. They have the information before this official announcement, and she was forced to send her resignation letter to the Prime Minister. So now it's confirmed officially by the government of Ethiopia Parliament. So that's confirmed, and under her leadership, under Maaza Shanafi leadership, there was no justice system. Under her watch, people were released and arrested without, due process. The prime minister and his team hijacked the system. They can arrest anybody. They can deny the release of, those freed by the court system. So we don't know how these new appointees will handle such kind of system when there is no free to judge based on the merit of the case. When the outside control the justice system is very hard to handle. So they may be doing the same thing Maza Shanafi was doing, or they will have the courage to challenge the system, to challenge the prime minister. We don't know yet, but if they don't do that, it's the same thing. The same thing. There is no rule of law. There is no respect for judges and the judgment, and the citizens can continue to suffer under such system. I expected, the prime minister resignation. I have been calling for one, but he is not budged by that one. Also, Ethiopian politician, Mr. Lidatu Ayalew, called upon him to resign like his predecessor, Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, but he refused. He just determined to continue his wrong leadership in that country. So we will see. But changing the passengers instead of the driver will not bring any change. You can change so many passengers. You can in new ones, take out the old ones. In that will not change. The driver is the problem. He is the one heading the country to a wrong direction. All the dispute, all the war in that country is from the leadership. So changing the passenger, changing the small apples will not bring any solution for that country. Let's start with this Ethiopian Parliament announcement and continue with the news. Thank you again for coming back.
ድምጽ የማሰጡ በስድስተኛው የህዝብ ተወካዮች ምክር ቤት ሁለተኛ ዓመት የስራ ዘመን 8ኛ መደበኛ ስብሰባ በጠቅላይ ሚኒስትሩ የቀረበው የፌዴራል ጠቅላይ ፍርድ ቤት ፕሬዝደንትና ምክትል ፕሬዝደንት ሹመት ጸድቋል። ምክር ቤቱ አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ምህረት ከበደን በ3 ድምፅ ታቅቦ በአብላጫ ድምፅ የፌዴራል ጠቅላይ ፍርድ ቤት ፕሬዝደንትና ወይዘሮ አበባ እምቢያለ መንግስቴን ደግሞ በሙሉ ድምፅ የፌዴራል ጠቅላይ ፍርድ ቤት ምክትል ፕሬዝደንት አድርጎ ሹመታቸውን አጽድቋል። ተሿሚዎችም በጉባኤው ፊት ቀርበው ቃለ መሐላቸውን ፈጽመዋል።
ለሕገ መንግስቱ ታማኝ በመሆን ከሀገሪቷና ከሕዝቡ የተጣለብኝን ኃላፊነት በቅንነት በታታሪነት እንዲሁም
So this is Mr. Theodros ምህረት ከበደ, and this is the lady, the Deputy Supreme Court President Abeba እምቢያለ መንግስቴ.
የምክር ቤት አባላቱም አስተያየታቸውን የሰጡ ሲሆን ከትምህርትና የስራ ልምዳቸው ባሻገር አካታች እንዲሆን መደረጉ ተገቢ እንደሆነ አንስተዋል።
Do you love boating? Well, Freedom Boat Club makes boating easier than ever. At Freedom Boat Club, we buy the boats and you enjoy them. Here's how it works. First, we buy and maintain a fleet of brand new boats. Then, you pay a one-time fee and monthly dues. You can go online anytime using any device to reserve the boat of your choice. Just arrive at the dock where you'll be greeted by a friendly staff member, hop on your reserved boat, and enjoy your day out on the water. And finally, bring the boat back, drop off the keys. It's just that easy. As a Freedom Boat Club member, you'll have access to a variety of boats from coast to coast. Don't feel comfortable behind the wheel? Don't worry. We offer free, unlimited, one-on-one training to ensure your safety and the safety of everyone else when you're out on the water. Freedom Boat Club. Boating made simple. Call us today.
Honoring.
Okay, I'll come back to the Martin Luther King memorial service. So that's the new appointment for the Ethiopia Supreme Court. So Ma'aza Ashanafi replaced by Mr. Theodros ምህረት ከበደ, and her deputy, Mr. Solomon, will be replaced by Abeba Mbibel, the lady you saw on the video. So that is the update, and I have also added this standard on this one. Let's continue. Chief Justice Deputy resigned. Parliament approved Chief Justice replacement. Ma'aza Ashanafi, President of the Federal Supreme Court, and her deputy, Solomon Arada Waktola, have resigned from their position in a letter to the House of People's Representative, which is currently in a session to replace the 4 ministerial portfolios who were discharged from their position last Saturday. The Parliament has subsequently approved Assistant Professor Theodros ምህረት from Addis Ababa University as Chief Justice. Okay, so he's a professor. I hope he will use his intellect and challenge the system. And Federal Supreme Court Abeba Mbiale as Deputy Chief Justice, replacing Ma'aza and Solomon respectively, in a move that was held historic at the time. Chief Justice Ma'aza and her deputy Solomon were nominated by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to the House of People's Representative on 1st November 2018, during which both have received unanimous vote from the House. Solomon has recently been appointed as a half-time judge of the United Nations Dispute Tribunal for the term 2023-2030 by the United Nations General Assembly's fourth plenary meeting at the election held on the 15th of November 2022 in New York. So he is getting the promotion, Mr. Solomon, to serve at the international level according to this Addis standard. We don't know the whereabouts of Maaza Ashanafi, the former U.S. and the former Ethiopian Supreme Court president. So these are the highlights, but the Prime Minister also removed, according to different news outlets, he removed the Transportation Minister, Dagmait Megos, also the Mining Minister, Takala Uma, from their position. So there's a lot of change. As I said, change should come from the top, not from the bottom. So the Prime Minister should consider resigning and wait for justice for what happened in Tigray, also what is happening in Oromia right now. This one is again credit for Addis Standard, leading Oromo advocacy group says 2022 difficult year of extreme rights violation in Oromia region, calls for independent probe into atrocities. In its annual report, which viewed the year 2022, Oromo Legacy Leadership and Advocacy Association, OLLAA, a leading diaspora-based Oromo advocacy group, called the year as a difficult year, compounded by extreme human rights violations in the Oromia region, and called the international community, including the African Union, to influence the government in Ethiopia to allow independent investigations into atrocities committed not only in 2022, but since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has come to power in 2018. And it is 33-page annual report, Human of Oromia. OLLAA emphasized that the UN and other investigatory bodies must be given access to the Oromia region in order to conduct independent, impartial, thorough, and credible investigation on allegations of human rights violation committed throughout Oromia by security forces ostensibly deployed to maintain peace and other armed actors operating in the region, and prosecute those individuals found responsible for human rights violations. Greater action must be taken by all stakeholders, including both the Ethiopian government and the international community, to ensure that the rights of Oromo civilians are upheld throughout Ethiopia, the report said. Based on media reports, its own researchers, and the evidence gathering, OLLAA documented in its report countless human rights violations committed against Oromo civilians, including extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detention, torture, inhumane treatment, denial of access to medical care, and the destruction of property. Human rights violations are rife in the past 5 years that have inflicted devastating harms to war-torn areas including Tigray and Oromia regions. A recent report by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission revealed that civilians are caught in crossfire and subjected to alarming crimes amounting to grave violation of human rights, due to most part to attacks by armed groups operating in the region, including by armed militia crossing over from the neighboring Amara regional state. Civilians are also increasingly being targeted in militarized clashes and deliberate attacks involving government security forces and armed groups. OLLAA, which has documented its own report into atrocities and extreme human rights violations in Oromia region, urged the international community to pressure the government to fulfill its obligation to respect and uphold fundamental rights in the line with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights principles. Similarly, in what it referred to as Ethiopia's other conflict, Human Rights Watch said that well before the conflict in northern Ethiopia, there has been widespread impunity for ongoing rights abuses in Ethiopia's Oromia region, including in areas already suffering from conflict. Many of these abuses still persist and require urgent international attention. Concerned citizens media also, reported on this thing, calling on international community, US, European Union, and UN to act and end their silence for the situation in Oromia. OLLAA's report said 2022 was a difficult year for the Oromo, and the situation throughout Oromia became increasingly volatile as conflict and the drought led to mass displacement and human rights abuse were perpetrated against Oromo civilians with impunity. The report stated that there were credible reports of attacks against Oromo civilians perpetrated by state agents, including members of the Ethiopian National Defense Force, Amara Regional Force, and the Oromia Regional Security Forces and Police, adding attacks have ranged from acts of physical violence perpetrated against civilians, including extrajudicial executions, to the destruction of civilian property. Indiscriminate attacks across Oromia have drastically increased as multiple drone strikes took place in heavily populated areas, killing several dozen civilians throughout western and central Oromia. It emphasized, adding, in the attacks that took place on 2nd November 2022, in which dozens of people had died and hundreds were injured in Bila, West Wallagga zone. There were numerous attacks against Oromo civilians, mainly by the Amara militia group known as Fanno in 2022, within Oromia frequent in the East Wallagga, West Wallagga, and Horo Guduru Wallagga zones, and in Wallo Oromia special zone of the Amara region. It emphasized. The report also underscored the attacks have increased in recent months, leading to mass displacement and the deaths of civilians that on the 25th and the 29th November, Fano militias carried out 2 separate attacks on residents of the Kiramu district, East Wallagga zone, which were followed by attacks in the Gida Ayana district. And the concerned citizens media also reported on the complete displacement of 19 districts by Fano militia in this Wallagga area. So, the report also highlighted the systematic nature of human rights abuses perpetrated against Oromo civilians throughout Ethiopia, that Oromos have been frequently subjected to violent attacks by state agents and non-state armed actors. OLLAA has recommended the urgency of pressuring the Ethiopian government to fulfill its duty to protect and promote the human rights of the Oromo people and to launch an independent investigation into the allegation of human rights abuses and to enter into negotiation for a comprehensive ceasefire agreement with the Oromo Liberation Army OLLAA, as it has done with the TPLF. It also called for the establishment of inclusive transitional justice mechanisms, including an inclusive dialogue process that can lay the groundwork for lasting peace and regional stability. So credit for Addis Standard. So the call for ceasefire or some kind of dialogue with Oromo Liberation Army, also done by the 80 MEPs representing Oromos from different zones, plus Oromo Federalist Congress, plus other organizations, call upon the Prime Minister and the ruling party to have ceasefire and enter into some kind of agreement with Oromo Liberation Army. The same, thing they did with TPLF, but so far nothing is happening, and intensive military operation under the pretext of eliminating ONG Shane continues. And the Prime Minister is also he was in Dubai for the meeting, plus also for some kind of support from that country. Plus he was in Turkey in the previous time. So he's going around to get some weapons and money for his war operation. So far he's not getting from Western countries. They are still, they start engaging with him, but they are not giving him money directly for this. They are giving for extra for humanitarian purposes. So he is not given up. He is not learning from 500,000 people died in northern part of war. He want to do the same thing. He want to continue the bloodshed in Oromia. This one, AU Peace Envoy, over 600,000 people killed in Ethiopia's Tigray war. This is now official confirmation from AU. And we have been saying more than 500,000 people killed in the Tigray Ethiopia war. Now this is an official confirmation from Obasanjo office. At least 600,000 people were killed in Ethiopia's Tigray war, which lasted for 2 years, a top mediator has said, which suggests that the number could be probably more should the final statistics get properly collected by credible data processors who will not hide any information. Yes, it could be higher. Olusegun Obasanjo, the African Union Peace Envoy to the Horn of Africa, noted that the brutal war was underestimated and could have caused further damage beyond imaginable heights had the parties failed to strike a truce. Those dead are both innocent civilians and members of security forces. The number of people killed was about 600,000. Former Nigerian President and African Union Envoy Olusegun Obasanjo told the Financial Times in an interview. During the interview, Olusegun, the former Nigerian president, said the truce in Nairobi and Pretoria fundamentally stopped an average of 1,000 days per day. The Ethiopian National Defense Force, ENDF, was at loggerhead with Tigray People's Liberation Front after an attack at the Northern Command in 2020. That's the claim, the Ethiopian government claim, continuously claiming that was the reason for the war. But according to different news outlets, that was not the cause. The war actually started before the attack on that military camp. Also central in the negotiation was the former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, who worked closely with Obasanjo and the United States, which largely facilitated the peace process. Both the US and the African Union, AU, have been instrumental in brokering the peace process. Tim Van Bemt, who is part of a research group investigating civilian atrocities in Tigray at the University of Gehen, said Obasanjo's 600,000 estimates might be roughly correct. Tigray was blocked for long periods, making independent analysis of what went on, including how many people died, extremely difficult, says expert. Based on reports from the field, the number of dead could be somewhere between 3,000 and 400,000 civilian casualties only. This from atrocities, starvation, and the lack of health care. Van den Bemt said. In addition, he said there were an official estimate of between 200,000 and 300,000 battlefield deaths, though this could not be accurately verified because Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, blocked all media from reporting, including domestic journalists. Credible reports also indicate that the war saw many civilians get raped, with the perpetrators targeting both children and women. The Ethiopian National Defense Force was being backed by soldiers from Eritrea and Amara Regional Militia. Who are yet to completely withdraw and disengage from Tigray. Should the estimate stand, then the deaths could be slightly higher than the deaths of Ukraine and Russian wars, or the tally could overtake the number recorded in the Colombian War, which left thousands of people dead and others critically injured. Daniel Bakele, Ethiopia's human rights chief, said casualty estimates should be treated with extreme caution. We will probably not be able to know the full number of casualties, he said. We need to be cautious about overly exaggerated death toll estimate by all sides. This is a government-appointed commission, Daniel Bakele, and still get paid by Abiy Ahmed. So that's expected. The war left critical infrastructure projects destroyed, with telecommunications, hospitals, banking, and electricity suffering the most. The country has activated normalcy in most areas, including the resumption of daily flights to Tigray's major towns, including the capital, Mekelle. I believe we have gone beyond the point of no return, said Obasanjo. I believe the guns are silenced. He asked the Ethiopian parliament to declassify Tigray's People Liberation Front as a terrorist organization to help reduce political temperatures that have been in top gear over the last 3 years. Credit for this one, Garowe Online News. So this is a Somalian online news I sometimes check. They have good news sometimes. They pay attention what's happening in East Africa, Middle East, and also news beyond that area. So that's the situation in Ethiopia. And so far, I don't know, the Ethiopian parliament, they didn't remove TPLF from terrorist list so far, unless I missed that news. So far, I didn't hear. That's supposed to be done. They just ignore it and keep engaging with TPLF. You know, that means they are engaging with a terrorist organization. I don't know why they are doing it, but is the law allow them to handle the situation in that way? We don't know. We don't know. Or they are waiting for Abiy Ahmed to give them order. The parliament is the one who declared OLLAA and the TPLF as terrorist organization. And now they made a peace. So what they are waiting for, I don't know. Supposed to remove from terrorist list. So far, I didn't hear. Maybe I missed. This one, abduction in northern Burkina Faso. This is U.S. State Department press release yesterday on the situation. The United States is deeply concerned by the abduction of more than 50 women by violent extremists near Arbinda in the Sahel region of Burkina Faso on January 12 and 13. Those abducted must be returned safely to their loved ones immediately and unconditionally, and those responsible should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Our thoughts remain with those abducted as well as their families and other loved ones. So this is the challenge we are facing in Burkina Faso. The next one is honoring and promoting respect for freedom of religion or belief globally. This is also from U.S. State Department, released yesterday. This National Religious Freedom Day marks the 237th anniversary of the signing of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom in 1786. Under the Virginia Statute, authorized by Thomas Jefferson, legislators for the first time endorsed the principles of freedom of conscience and the separation of church and state. Several years later, the Virginia Statute became the template for the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. A century and a half after that, it helped to inspire Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Every person, everywhere, has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, religion, and belief, including the freedom to change their beliefs or not believe. Each person also has the freedom, either individually or in community with others, in public or private, to manifest those beliefs in worship, observance, practice, and teaching. On this day, we call attention to people around the world who are harassed, detained, imprisoned, or even killed for expressing their beliefs. Countries flourish when they effectively safeguard freedom of religion or belief and other human rights. They are more peaceful, stable, prosperous, and more reliable partners of the United States than those that do not. The United States will continue to advocate for individuals' ability to live in accordance with the dictates of their conscience and speak out on behalf of those who have been denied the ability to do so. On National Religious Freedom Day, we renew our resolve to champion this right for all people around the world. So that is U.S. State Department on World Religion Day. Okay, that's the end of the reading. Let's share a couple of videos and end today's presentation. Thank you again for joining me. Let's get started. Here we go.
Civil rights icon. Crowds gathered in Washington, D.C. to mark Martin Luther King Jr. Day and pay tribute to the leader on his annual national holiday. US President Joe Biden on the weekend made a historic pilgrimage to what he called America's Freedom Church. He said King's legacy can help guide Americans to make the right choices.
This is a time for choosing. Will we choose democracy over autocracy, or community over chaos, love over hate? These are the questions of our time that I ran for president to try to help answer, and that Dr. King's life and legacy, in my view, show us the way forward. We just have to look back. We got to be prepared.
Thousands of people marched in the US Capitol in a parade to commemorate the famous activist. Residents unfurled banners and held aloft signs to celebrate the teachings of the civil rights leader, who was killed in 1968, aged just 39.
Have you been diagnosed with PKD? Click
So
to
this is
learn
an
about Falcon,
advertisement
a
again.
research study for patients with
It's
autosomal
crazy.
dominant polycystic kidney disease.
These low-income workers in Islamabad scramble to buy a bag of government-subsidized flour. Inflation disproportionately affects the poorest in society. Across Pakistan, many are struggling with the rising cost of living.
It's been hugely difficult to live on our earnings. I'm a daily laborer. I have to queue up for up to 3 hours to purchase subsidized flour. The regular prices are unaffordable.
Soaring inflation is just one challenge. Pakistan is also facing a foreign exchange crisis. These importers are protesting outside a bank about a shortage of dollars. They can't get credit to pay for the goods they're importing. It means thousands of containers packed with essential food items, raw materials and medical equipment are stuck at the port in Karachi.
We demand the government immediately provide dollars so that we can get our consignment released from the port and prevent huge losses in shipping fees.
Importers who've been in the business for 35 years say they've never seen it this bad.
We have barely 25 days of stock left. If the dollars are not released immediately, there will be an immense shortage of grain during Ramadan, meaning further hardship.
Pakistan is still recovering from last year's historic flooding. At its peak, more than one-third of the country was underwater. At least 1,700 people died, and damages are estimated at nearly $40 billion. Last week, the United Arab Emirates agreed to defer the repayment of a $2 billion loan and provide an extra $1 billion. But with the national debt running at nearly 90% of GDP, Pakistan is appealing for more help from the global community. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Okay, so these are the videos I selected for today's update. Thank you again. So let me conclude. The war in Oromia region should get urgent attention by the United States, European Union, United Nations. They should force Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to settle this issue. The AU also should pressure the Prime Minister Prosperity Party to handle this issue in a peaceful manner instead of looking for war, more money, more weapons, and for more bloodshed to continue in Oromia region. He should settle. The representatives asked the Prime Minister and others, government officials, to handle this issue peacefully. The political parties, religious organizations also called upon Prime Minister to sit down with OLLAA and other, disagree with his policy to settle in a peaceful manner. So we appreciate OLLAA, Oromo leadership, advocacy group for releasing this press statement calling for accountability, for independent investigation, for grave human rights violations happened since 2018, since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power, either by the government forces or by those regional forces plus the Fano militia who are crossing into Oromia region and carrying out displacement and the killing of Oromos. And as I said, changing the passengers will not solve the country's problem. We should change the driver. The driver is Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who is responsible for taking the country into wrong direction, who changed everything since 2018. He destroyed the future of Ethiopians, the hope, everything he talked about when he came to power. He changed everything into chaos, anarchy, death, and destruction. So we should call upon him to consider resigning and wait for justice for what he did in Tigray and what he has been doing in Oromia region. So the international community, we appreciate their intention of engaging with the Ethiopian government, but they should call upon him, recommend or talk to him nicely. Please consider resigning. You are the head of the problem. If that was not fixed, if you fix small ones, that will not fix the country's problem. Remove him and open the country for all stakeholders to engage and to solve the country's problem. So that's if that's not happen, and he's still looking for drones and other military hardwares to crash OLLAA and others, the problem of Ethiopia will not be resolved. And he is also using the Somalian forces, the Afar forces, to attack Oromos, plus also using economic war on Oromos, denying the economic opportunities for those farmers not to sell their commercial products like cat, and allowing others to export their properties. That's is economic war. And in addition to military war and political war, he's waging economic war on Oromos. So those are the lack of leadership or purposely engaging in harming the Oromo people, and will not take him anywhere. Please resign. Concerned citizens media ask you again politely. I asked multiple times on this media to consider resigning and be prepared to face justice for what you did on Ethiopians. That's all I'm gonna say for today. Thank you, again for coming back. Apologies for missing you for at least 3-4 days. So long, everyone.